should be this. Check your phone. Right? On your phone, you should have 3 specific apps. A barometer, the application called Tides Near Me, barometer, Tides Near Me, and the other one is called Surfline. A barometer, Tides Near Me, and Surfline. All right? You can't just show up at a beach and expect to catch fish. Now, if you can do that, then you take me out with you, and then I'll come back and rewrite some different things. But I've showed up plenty of different times and realized a barometer is a simple thing. I need my phone real quick. A barometer is a simple little tool. It looks like a gauge for like a tachometer, right? In the middle of the barometer is the green zone. The green zone is the temperature that it's at every day. It's about 29 to 30 degrees. When you see the barometer green, you realize that that's standard operational procedure. Probably not going to be the most exciting fishing day on the planet Earth. Green, right in the middle, right? But when you see this barometer move slightly left blue or slightly right red, everything changes. We're not fish. We don't think like fish, we don't act like fish. But fish act like fish. This lateral line and the way they respond to pressure is it triggers something in them. And anytime you see a barometer move, especially low or high, if you're out on a boat, just put this app on your phone. This doesn't require you understand anything. Green, standard, operational, most of the time it's going to stay within that. But the moment you have an opportunity to go fishing, this is my friend who's trying to come in. Hey Paul, it's building 15, Seton Hall. Now I'm in the middle of the thing. Are you here? Okay, I'm sending Paula out with a pink shirt. She'll find you. All right. He's at the gazebo, Paula. He's at where the other thing was. The gazebo. He's at where we used to meet in front of the office. Look for a woman in a pink shirt named Paula. Okay, he's in front of the worship center. I'll see you in a minute, Paul. All right, thanks, bye. You know what, guys? I always answer my phone. It's a bad thing. So barometer, number 1. Number 2, on your phone. Tides Near Me. Simple app, free. I'm giving you all the free apps. I've tried all the paid apps. Tides Near Me. You let it load, it finds out where you are. Where do you want to fish? Somewhere in Newport? I fish Newport Bay entrance because that's one of the 3 jetties that I live on. I live on that inlet. And what it tells me is incoming tide, outgoing tide, and then if I can't understand that, I simply push weak. And now it tells me the actual flow of the incoming and outgoing tide. That's huge. The bigger the incoming tide, the bigger the outgoing tide, the more water that's moving, huge advantage for you. If you can, always fish an incoming tide 1 hour before and 2 hours after. If you get there and your line's getting sucked out to sea, sometimes you're going to have to just retire and wait because all the outgoing tides will eventually stop. Wait for that slack tide and then you might be able to target some other fish. But you always want to know where the tide is. Plan your times to arrive at something an hour before the incoming tide, get your gear set up, and try to fish that incoming tide. That's a huge advantage for your fishing. The last one is Surfline. This is what the surfers use every day to check for waves. The reality is for surf fishing, we don't get excited about big waves. Now when the waves are big, for me, because I still bodyboard, I just put my surfing gear, I put the surf fishing gear in the car and I'll grab my bodyboard and go out and catch some waves. But anything over about a 5 to 6 foot wave for us is pretty much going to successfully end your surf fishing time. Now, if you want to get bonkers, you can go and try some of these big, I call them Sputniks. They go from 2 to 6 ounces, and these things will actually really dig in. The problem is, the more you have to dig a line in to hold it, the more resistance there's going to be when a fish hits it, right? So there's ways you can get lines to hold. But for me, I always try to fish the lightest weight possible so there's no resistance when a fish hits it. So go to Surfline. At the bottom of Surfline it says Explore. And now I'm in the Philippines. Well, that's not going to help me. Okay, but now it finds my GPS location. It says Newport. I just pushed Inlet 74th Street. That's where I fish. And it says River Jetties is poor with 1 to 2 foot. Guess what? I'm on. 1 to 2 foot, that's go time for surf fishing. That means wherever you cast, however we're going to work out, I'll show you a little system for surf fishing. 1 to 2 foot is gold. 3 to 4 foot you can still work, but right about 4 to 5 foot is the threshold. If you happen to show up at the beach and there's more cabbage in the water than there is water, do yourself a favor, get back in the car, and go find another spot. Seaweed floating everywhere means the bottom's all churned up. And if you're fishing good gear and it's just grabbing seaweed, after about an hour of fishing seaweed hits and seaweed grabs and your line's breaking off, you'll quit. So you're going through this whole process. Now you've done it all. The only other thing that will help is moon phase. Moon phase. Half moon to full moon creates greater bulges, which is going to affect the tidal surge, which is what it's all about anyways. If you do just that pre-homework before you go, you will already increase your fishing odds by 50%. Because there is a time when fish eat, and there's a time and a place where they're going to be. Now we know the time and place that they're going to eat. Incoming tide, right moon, everything like that. Then once you get to a place, you have to realize what you're fishing for. What you're fishing for. Now, if you have no idea what's in our water, then this book is a have to have for you. Because what you're targeting, what you're fishing for, has certain things that it likes to eat. Right? It's one thing to show up and say, I see fish in the water, I want to catch them. There's times where from 68th Street to 74th Street, the water, every wave will have this little fish swimming through with yellow fins. It's a yellow fin croaker. There's time when the schools are so thick and so heavy, you can fill up a backpack every 10 minutes with fish, right? But you still got to know what they're eating. You still got to know what they're feeding on. So once you get there, what are you fishing for? Corbina. Okay, well, Corbina is pretty basic. Sand crabs. Sand crabs, sand crabs, and sand crabs. Now, right now, the sand crabs that are in are really small, and they're hard to fish with. A good sand crab is about thumbnail size, and a good tool to help you with sand crabbing is something like this. You find the little V's, the little spools of V's on the thing, you just dig your foot down in front of it as the waves trickling out, and you fill this thing up with as many sand crabs as you can get. Then you don't just use any sand crab. Then you stick your hand into the sand crabs, and you start pushing on the back of the sand crab. You know why? Because there's sand crabs that are in the middle of a molt. And when a sand crab is in the middle of a molt, his shell goes from hard to elastic. Sometimes when the waves are going out, the last one or two that are scurrying in, the reason why they're still scurrying is their shell's not hard enough to dig them in. That's what the Corbina are coming and sucking first. You put a soft-shelled sand crab on one of the light rigs. We'll go over the rigs in a minute. If you put a soft-shelled sand crab anywhere near feeding Corbina, it's absolutely game on. You have to know what you're fishing for. Are you fishing for halibut? Halibut are not dumb fish. Now, you can take them on super heavy gear. If you see in Alaska, they fish with like 100-pound hemp line. I mean, it doesn't matter. If the halibut's there, he's going to hit it. The difference is you got to know what they're feeding on. And one thing they don't like is dead bait that doesn't move. Right? If you have dead bait and it's not moving, you're not going to catch any halibut. So I'm going to show you a couple of different rigs that'll give you a chance. I mean, I catch quite a few halibut that are keeper, including halibuts from places where people don't even know. A good place you wouldn't even think about is inside of Balboa Bay. And I've caught a 12-pound halibut out of Balboa Bay off a dock. The people, their Duffy's going right by me. There's some giant halibut inside of that bay. Now, I don't know that I would eat them. That's a whole nother. We can talk about that some other time. But I don't eat anything. For the record, I do not eat anything. I CNR everything. Everything I post is on my page, Fishers of Men. Everywhere I'm at, I post them, and I just simply release everything. My goal is to catch and release. And we're going to talk about how to release as well. I'll get to that when I get to equipment. So once you know what you're fishing for, what you know, the next thing you need to realize is what gear am I going to bring. Now, I mentioned Corbina. A basic Corbina gear, I like to call this the Bill Varney special. Bill Varney is not the first guy to write on that stuff, by the way. Varney is 2006, Lightline Revolution. The first guy to ever write on that stuff is Mike Gardner. This is 97, okay? This has been going on a long time. The difference is, Bill's the first guy to make the West Coast surf fishing something that people could talk about. East Coast surf fishing is legit. They have gentlemen that are professional East Coast fishermen. That's all they do is surf fish. We spend $50, $60, $100 on a reel here in California, and we're like, wow, that a good surf reel in the East Coast, a Van Staal 150, is $795 used and about $900 new. They will only fish Stellas, Saltigas, and Van Staals on the East Coast, right? We can get away with this. This is a $100 reel from Daiwa, spectacular reel, called a Fuego. But this little teeny 6-pound setup, 7.6, 6 pound with a Carolina keeper with this clear, because I don't want the fish to see the Carolina, they come in red or clear. And this little teeny baby switch, I literally cast this like I'm trout fishing. I spot fish and see the Corbina swimming in the shoreline. I put a small sand crab on and I flip it right out, right in front of them, right into the sand troughs, literally right in front of them. People have no idea what you're doing. That presentation to a Corbina feeding in the trough, they can't resist it. If that thing rolls back like that, especially if it's soft shelled, they'll hit it so hard and so fast, you'll be blown away. Now this is also a match rod, so this is a Daiwa Spin-O-Matic. This is 2 to 8 pounds. If you're gonna surf fish, I know my friend Bobby was here last month talking about, Bobby doesn't care about what gear I use, he just thinks it's whatever. I mean, everything is matched. If there's one thing I've learned after doing this nonstop, match the reel to the rod. This reel's rated 6 to 8 pounds. This rod's rated 2 to 8 pounds. It's perfectly balanced. You could carry this thing, you could carry 5 of these in your backpack. I got too many things. It's perfectly balanced.
You got to throw him back.
It casts, what are you gonna do, 100 yards? You don't need 100 yards with this. Corbina are 20-yard fish. You're gonna Corbina fish, you only need gear for 20 yards. But if you get there, and it happens to be one of those schools, like sometimes inside of Corona Del Mar, believe it or not, Corona Del Mar has some amazing fishing in it. No one ever fishes in there. Whenever I fish there, people always ask me what I'm doing. I love when they ask me that. I tell them I'm catching the fish that you're walking by. If you want to fish, and you in the 2 to 4 pound, you look down in there and you see 4 fish, and the average size is 5 to 8 pounds. It's gonna be a lot of work on that. You can try 6 pound test. It's a lot of work. If you accidentally flip it out into the trough, guess what? Sometimes some giant halibut are just sitting in the trough. It doesn't have to make sense, but if you actually see the halibut take it and you're fighting it and it starts running you down the beach and you realize you can't move it or stop it, and with the teeth 6 pound test, you're gonna be really frustrated. Then you move it to the next stop. This little scimitar pole is cheap. This is Shimano scimitar. I have scimitar, this is a 8-12. And then I use this exclusively for beach fishing. Anything that's 20 yards, 30 yards and in. This is all 10 pound or under fish. Ideal for 4 to 6 pound fish. Sand bass. You wanna go fish some great sand bass fishing? Go down to any one of our jetties. Where did they start, Byron? 28th Street? 28 through 48?
All the way through 52nd.
52nd. I live, you guys go down to 36, 32, or 40th, you're gonna see me down there. I live on that. So depending on where the swell is, I fish the inside of the jetty. The swell's coming this way, I'll fish the inside of this one. If the swell's coming this way, you fish the inside. So from the top of the rocks down to the right. Alongside of that, there's opali. There's barred perch. There's all kinds, there's a million different perch. This kind of rig right here is really fun. It's really light. And once again, accidentally hook a halibut on this rig, you're gonna have a chance. Same thing, Carolina. Carolina's the way to go. I mean, 90% of the fishing is gonna be Carolina. This is just a little 1/2 ounce egg, and I don't care about the color of the keeper. I don't want them to see the bait up there. I don't use colored gear if I have to, like copper or bronze, black only. I don't want the fish hitting anything else or being distracted by anything else. I want them to focus on the bait. Now sometimes I will put a bead at the bottom when I think it's beneficial, because I want, like on the big rig, when I'm fishing the big rig, this is my exploring rig. See, I put a bead down there, that's 30 pound fluoro. That's how serious, when I throw this thing out, I'm getting a little bit more serious. That's a full, you guys are all good at hook size, right? 1/0's big, 2/0 big, 3/0 big, 4/0 big, 1, 2, 3, 4, going the other way, small. I almost fish exclusively 1/0's, right? As soon as I put a 2/0 or a 3/0 on, that's full squid. Because the kind of fish that's going to eat a full squid has a big mouth. I need something that's going to hook. Offset J's. That is a killer bait hook. Offset J.
When you say offset J.
So I'm showing it to you. See the offset? It's not flat.
Yeah, it's tilted to
right.
One way or the other.
Yes. That makes a huge difference. So when you go to pull on an offset hook, it rolls. Okay? When you pull on that offset and it rolls in, that's going to give you much more hooking capabilities. A straight bait, which is just straight like that, you're gonna miss a lot more fish when you go to set. But this rig, all this is what they call like a little pulley rig. Just a little slide that goes on here, and then you just adjust for wherever you're gonna try to fish. If you wanna fish short, 2 ounces. Medium, 3 ounces. Heavy, deep, 4 ounces, 5 ounces. Follow the rating. Now this is Daiwa's new team surf fishing rods. This is probably, other than Phoenix, In the high-end stuff, this is probably the best in the $150 to $200 class. They've moved the ferrule to one piece right here. So the ferrule's right here down at the low neck. That makes a huge difference. All your other poles are gonna be breaking up here. They're gonna have a different pinch point. This rod literally will cast with a flip 60, 70 yards. Very light flip. So this is kind of the rod that I spend a lot of time with. When I put that big fluoro leader on, I'm starting to get serious. The only other time that's beyond that, this is the outside rod. This rod is ugly, it's big, it's beastly. This is the 2016 model Saltiste. This is called the Heavy. So this 5,000 model is called the H. If it's not 25 pounds or heavier on this rig, you're just wasting your time. You're reeling in mackerel or anchovies. You won't even know. Nothing's gonna happen on this rig. This is for like bat rays, leopard sharks, smooth hounds, anything that starts to get 25 pounds and up that you can get to from the shore. Don't think you can't get to them either. There are places in Laguna, I mean, I brought the map. People, you can't fish in Laguna. It stops at Crystal Cove, and then it picks back up again at Thousand Steps. You can't fish anywhere in between Elisa Pier, any of that stuff. But there are areas in that zone where there's a lot of rocks and structure. There are some huge fish holed up in there. I've put myself into a couple calicos from the shore there that